we're gonna get stone.
Yep.
Wait, you ready? Yep. All rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the February meeting of the Philipstown Town Board. I think I have my thing here. So we're going to open this evening with two public hearings. Tara, you want to take it over?
Sure. The notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown on February 6, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. at the Philipstown Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments for or against a proposed local law entitled, "A Local Law to Amend Chapter 156, Article 2 of the Town Code of the Town of Philipstown entitled Senior Citizens Tax Exemption to increase income limits of senior citizens for real property tax exemptions in conformity with the New York State Real Property Tax Law 467. A complete copy of the local law is available for inspection upon request, sent to townclerk@philipstown.com, and is also available on the town's website. Dated January 22nd, 2025, by order of the Town Board, Tara K. Percocello, Town Clerk.
So this is basically to tidy up the income rates to compare it with New York State, to get it in line with New York State. If you look at some of the income rates that are considered, they're quite low. So this will provide some relief to the lower income people. I did notice on 156-8 that there is a typo. We did change adjusted to total gross income. But if you read down a little further, it says income fax year, and it should say income tax year. So that's the only thing I have to say. I fully support this, obviously. Do the board members have anything else to
Yes,
add?
I think it's great for our senior citizens who have been aware of the need locally and have really informed our discussion of this. We have discussed it with them at previous meetings, so we appreciate everyone's support for this. And we're fortunate we have the Director of Senior Services for Putnam here tonight. So
You're up soon.
You're up soon, yes. But thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
No,
you.
I
bringing
would like
this
to say
forward.
we've been discussing it for quite some time now. We know it was something we wanted to do, so we finally got around to doing it, and I think it's the right thing for everybody involved.
Especially those of us that are reaching those senior
Yeah, that's
citizen
right.
years.
That's right. 2 days, I'll be one. No age discrimination here,
So
though.
we will open the floor to the public. Any comment from the public? How long do we have to keep this open, Tara?
If there's no public comment, you can close it right now.
Going once, going twice? Okay, we will close. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion we close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And we'll vote on the law later. Next one up.
Hold on. Sorry, I can't write that fast. Next is another public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown on February 6, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. at the Philipstown Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments for or against a proposed local law entitled, "A Local Law to Amend Chapter 156, Article 5 of the Town Code of the Town of Philipstown entitled Exemption of Disabled with Limited Income to increase income limits of disabled persons for real property tax exemptions in conformity with the New York State Real Property Tax Law 459-C. A complete copy of the local law is available for inspection upon request, sent to townclerk@philipstown.com, and is also available on the town's website, philipstown.com. Dated January 22nd, 2025, by order of the Town Board, Tara K. Percocello, Town Clerk.
So again, this is just getting our law caught up with the surrounding or the state of New York. So again, I fully support this to bring some relief to disabled income or taxpayers in the town of Philipstown. So I will open it up to the board. Any discussion?
I fully support it as well, so again, glad we could bring this to the town of Philipstown.
Right thing to do, fully support it.
Thank you.
I echo exactly what they just said as well.
I 100% support this. I'm thrilled it's actually gone through, so.
So we'll open up to the floor. Any comment from the public?
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you. Can always rely on you to put your 2 cents in. Most appreciated. So can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, so we'll vote on those as it. Okay, so moving on to the meeting. Approval of minutes, reorg meeting, January 8th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Monthly meeting, January 9th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Conservation Board met on January 14th. There were a few items that were referred from the Planning Board. One was a memo on a Vasta property that went back to the Planning Board and Zoning Board, where the Conservation Board was really putting forward their opinion that they were uncomfortable with the project due to the disturbance and steep slopes with the site impact, and they're trying to organize a meeting to follow up on some of those new Upland Drive restrictions to make sure everybody's on the same page. Planning Board, I'm sure Bob will mention it, 548 East Mountain Road is proposing a subdivision. Conservation Board has planned a site visit. A second referral, the Philipstown Depot backstage is no longer necessary because that project is no longer happening at that site. An item of old business at Timber Ridge, 346 Indian Brook Road. Conservation Board is waiting for a final set of drawings related to two permits related to the construction of a driveway and a drainage pipe and expansion of an existing dwelling. It's been in front of the Conservation Board a while. The property owners are itching to move forward, so the Conservation Board has said that they would be able to issue a conditional permit at the next meeting so the work can begin. And in new business, a Conservation Board member brought up a proposed concrete plant that's happening just over the Philipstown border in Fishkill called Century Aggregates. Conservation Board noted that even though it's not in the town of Philipstown, that we would be an affected party. This concrete plant is close to Clove Creek. The Conservation Board wonders what impact it could have on the water aquifer, and the Conservation Board recommends drafting a memo to send to the Fishkill Planning Board and Supervisor, and so one Conservation Board member was going to take that task. The Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail was brought up at the Conservation Board meeting. Conservation Board shared that they had been asked by the Supervisor and Town Board to review the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail DGEIS for the Conservation Board to share their perspectives, and they plan to share their perspectives on the DGEIS with the Town Board. There was some audience comment, and then finally, Max reported that the town has received a $75,000 grant for the stormwater MS4 district effort to help with GIS and mapping. The Conservation Board will meet next this upcoming Tuesday, which I believe is the 11th at 7:30. Yeah.
To the Conservation Board.
Hey,
Recreation.
Jason, I've got
Oh, I'm
one quick
sorry.
question.
Yeah.
That concrete plant, was there an address on there? Because there's a concrete plant right over the line already.
It's in the old quarry that's behind
Oh.
Nicholas Agonis's.
Oh, that's where, okay, that's where I kind of thought it was, but I just wanted
Where
to
they
make
had
sure.
proposed the 600 trailer
Yeah,
barn.
yeah.
Same
And
spot.
that's where they just trying to put a new entrance in there too?
Yes, that's my
Okay. I
understanding.
kind of thought that's what it was, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Commission met on Tuesday, January 28th. I attended the meeting, which also had a visit from the Depot Theater representatives, who shared insights on the property that they'd like to construct for the theater to store some of the props, but also as a rehearsal space. The Depot's planning to submit a grant next year that would allow the theater to construct the storage and program building on the recreation campus. So this is proposed to be near the water tower, would not affect any current programming held outdoors. The space is expected to house all costumes and will feature a set design space, rehearsal space, as I said earlier, and offices. The rec is in full swing at the current. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, John.
The Depot Theater?
The
Yeah.
Depot Theater.
That building was the one that was proposed to be the Osborne property at 90 and 403. We did meet a couple times with OSI, and I met with the theater board as well. After reviewing what could happen there, it seems like a better fit for the theater to be at the recreation site. There's already parking, there's water, there's electricity. It wouldn't be in the middle of a beautiful pasture, which is what's there currently. We think it's a better fit. My other concern was, God forbid, if the theater were to fail at some point, which I don't foresee happening with the group that's behind it, but if, in fact, it did fail, that building could be repurposed at the Recreation Department, where it would be very difficult to repurpose on the property where the well is. OSI had also put limits on parking, size, height of the building. So there was a lot to deal with if we did it at 90 and 403. So, Claudio, I'm sure you could add something.
Not really, you summed it up very well. Just, the thing is that the deadline for the NISCA,
Yeah.
New York State Council of the Arts funding was January 14th, and because of all these delays, we
Right.
obviously missed that. So it gives us a whole year, practically,
Right.
11 months now, to work on plans for.
Right, and I think getting to that deadline, jumping through all these hoops would have been nearly impossible. This will be a more appropriate timeline. I think it's more comfortable for OSI and for the rec department, and certainly for the town, in my opinion. So I think it'll work out well. Again, there's already ample parking at the rec department. There is, in our deed restrictions, there is ability to put additional parking without a lot of resistance. So I think it's certainly a better fit for them to be at the Recreation Department. I know there's going to be some negotiation with the Rec Commission. I don't know how well they were received that night, but
It was well received, yes.
good. I think it's a good utilization of it, so, and I look forward to working towards it. So thank you, Jim.
You're welcome, and the rest of the winter programming is in full swing with the programs for seniors, adults, and children. Spring programming registration's coming up in mid-February, and the seniors also have a winter luncheon on Wednesday, February 19th at noon. And trips for seniors will resume in March with the Broadway show Hadestown. So it's an exciting season coming up. There were also renovations that have been done at the rec center, which we want to thank the staff there. I think they did a lot of the work themselves, and the bathroom downstairs, as well as purchasing the new chairs. So the rec center is also excited to accept the Ford Lightning electric truck, which is there and was part of our climate smart funding, was appropriated for that.
Great.
So we're just delighted that there's so much going on at the rec, and they've also made some updates and renovations. So thank you to everyone for that.
Yeah, we are so fortunate that staff considers that place like their house, and
Yes.
they decided that that bathroom needed some work, and they dug in, rolled up their sleeves, and went ahead and did it, and got it. I haven't seen it completed, but I'm sure it's one. Knowing Walter and Frank, I'm sure it's been done. And Cecily was there cracking the whip, so it had to be done properly.
I was down there the day they were on the way up to Home Depot to buy the stuff.
Get
so.
something, right?
I'd just
It
like to
looks
add,
good.
I'd like to just add that I'd like to thank the Recreation as well. They allowed us, the Knights of Columbus, to hold our foul shooting contest there again, second year in a row. So it's,
Cotter kids win again?
yeah, well, I don't, yeah. Anyway, so I want to add my thanks to letting us use that as well.
Okay, great.
We had over 20 kids there this year, which was pretty good.
That's terrific. And thank you to the Red Cross. They've dropped a trailer full of supplies at the rec department as well.
And I hope we never
We
use
hope
it.
we'd never have to use for
But
an
it's good to know.
emergency.
Good to know, so.
And there are 2 vacancies on the commission, so I know Claudio and other commission members are planning to interview candidates.
Yeah, we have a few
Yes.
applications, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're setting up interviews.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the rec commission and the rec staff. And thank you, Judy. Philipstown Hub,
The Philipstown Hub held several free events in January, including on January 26th, Beginner's Meditation, January 27th, a support group for women with ADHD, and January 28th, Family Game Night. The Hubs also scheduled private grief support groups for Haldane students that have experienced recent loss. One group was being held actually today. They met, and the Hub will again work with the school, with the Haldane School, to facilitate more groups. They've also held an appreciative listening session at, actually that's scheduled to be held on February 27th at the building at 3590 Route 9 in Philipstown. And that's going to be an evening event from 6 to 8 p.m. on February 27th. So that's a really nice new space that we were glad to get as a community benefit. Supervisor Van Tassel and the board were involved in helping to get that. So it's a great, I encourage everyone to visit that site. And the next Hub event for women with ADHD will be held, as well as a caregivers event on Thursday, February 13th in the afternoon at the Cold Spring office from 3:15 to 4:15 p.m. For the year of 24-25, the Philipstown Hub Care Coordinators made 323 contacts in the month of January alone. But for the total year, there were 2,387 contacts made with people throughout Philipstown. We want to thank the care coordinators and all the Hub staff. And the board of directors, all the volunteers who've really made it happen.
Thank you. Thank you to the Hub. Thank you, Judy. Planning Board.
Okay, I attended the planning board on January 16th. Correspondence, as Jason already indicated, for VASA and the Conservation Board, and no need to go through that again. We had two public hearings. One of the public hearings was the Hudson Highland Reserve, which has been thrown at the board now for many, many years. This was a continued public hearing on the subdivision of the condition of the board to discuss the easement, the conservation easement, and the Omar Park maintenance plan and subdivision. One person spoke in favor of the town of holding the conservation easement, and that was the only person that spoke. The owner committed to adding a dog park, because someone brought that up a few months ago about adding that they thought a dog park would be good, and he's going to go with that request and put it in. So the public hearing was closed. Other public hearing was Rosemary Colbert Trust, also Jason indicated, 548 East Mountain Road. There was nobody that spoke at the public hearing, as Jason indicated, that the conservation would like to do a site visit, so I don't know when that's going to be scheduled, but they did close the public hearing, and they will not do anything further until they heard back from the Conservation Board after their site visit. Old business, Garrison Golf Course, Shakespeare Festival. This is phase two. This phase two is consisting of the artists' dwellings and housing they're proposing. They're proposing 4 individual lodging units and one 16-unit lodging unit. The 4 individual lodging units will have 5 individual lodgings that will contain. So I think altogether it'll be like 32 units that will be there as well. So basically, the board approved it, and they'll be on their way for the phase 2. Next thing on the agenda was KBP Properties, 201 East Old Albany Post Road in Garrison. They've been in front of the planning board for quite a few months as well. They discussed the site visit, which that happened on January 5th. The board does have concern. There's a 14% grade that's coming down from the driveway, and that driveway is coming onto Route 9, so they're concerned about that. They're also concerned about the amount of water that may be coming off that entering to Route 9. They say there's drainage down there, but I think that they have to do a little bit more work on the drainage to get this request approved. So there'll be a public hearing on February 20th, which is the next planning board meeting. Last on the agenda was a new business. Ferguson and Chain, 236 Albany Post Road, Garrison, New York. It's a minor site plan. The application is seeking a plan of approval for raising an existing 1,645 square foot single-family home and replacing with a 4,077 square foot home. They're going to use the existing footprint. They will abandon the well in the existing septic system and put a new one in. So this is the first time before the planning board. So the planning board made it a secret type 2 action. They referred to the county planning and the other agencies that they normally do each month. And a site visit is scheduled for February 9th at 9:30. End of report.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the planning board. Do either of you know if it's 548 East Mountain Road north or south?
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
East Mountain Road North.
Thank you. Zoning.
Zoning, January meeting was canceled due to weather, and the next meeting will be held on February 10th.
All righty, thank you. Highway.
Highway, was submitted by Adam Hotelling, Highway Superintendent. With the exception of one weekend storm, there has been very little snow until recently. The snow this season so far, however, the highway crews have been out on the roads during those snow and ice events, keeping the roads clear and secure. After waiting for a full year, the new Switch and Go truck finally arrived. This truck is unique as it can switch to 4 different types of beds: a flat bed, an armor bed for leaves, a spreader, and a dumpster. I just saw the invoice on one of our invoices today. I just saw that and I signed it, so I'm glad they got this new piece of equipment. Crew's been out, spent time clearing new spots at the landfill for the food scrap program. If anyone's been up there, the food scrap program was kind of all the way over on the left-hand side, and it was, people were concerned about going through the metals and everything else up there. Anyway, so we had the highway department move it to a better location up there. So now when you first go in, it's right on your right-hand side, easy to get to, and it's much nicer there. So I'm glad they did it, and it was very helpful for them to do that. I thank them for doing so. The food scrap program, as you know, has been growing and is doing really well. Prior to the Canopus Creek Bridge replacement, the project due to begin in March, the crews have been preparing Highland Drive and Winston Lane by clearing brush, installing temporary signs to help the traffic enforcement, checking guardrails, fixing washouts, and generally cleaning out debris in order to help the road visibility. For the month of January, there was roughly 20 phone calls made to the highway garage, and $10,000 was spent on vehicle maintenance. Adam Hotelling, submitted.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the highway department. Did we rectify the issue with the trailer being overfilled?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
All right.
I spoke to Ryan for the second time this year, and he says he'll do it, it's under control.
Thank you. The food scraps looks great, the new space.
Oh, you've been up there?
I saw photos
Oh, yeah,
were shared
okay.
with us.
Especially, did a nice job and it's easy, much easier for people to use.
We have a very cooperative highway crew. Thank you to Adam and Tommy and the entire crew. So, building and land acquisition, I have nothing. Cemetery committee.
The only thing I want to bring on the
Oh,
land
sorry.
is, as you indicated, should be installing the pump for the well relatively the next few weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take to get the water connected and everything, but within another 5 to 6 weeks, hopefully we'll have this in service.
The well, I think they're scheduled to go February 19th,
19th, yeah, providing they get all the parts.
and the ground is accessible, so, which the highway department will be assisting with that as well.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, cemetery committee.
Cemetery, there's nothing to report. There's snow on the ground.
Okay, going on to the agenda.
First on the agenda is a resolution enacting a local law to increase the income limits of senior citizens for real property tax exemptions, and this is a roll call vote.
So we discussed this earlier in a public hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt the local law to increase income limits of senior citizens for real property tax exemptions?
So
Second,
Second.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Angell.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution enacting a local law to increase income limits of disabled persons for real property tax exemptions, and this is again a roll call vote.
Again, we discussed this in a public hearing as well. Could I get a motion to enact a local law to increase income limits of disabled persons for real property tax exemptions?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sorry, I got Councilwoman Cotter, sorry.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Yes. Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Angell.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next in the agenda is Marlene Barrett, the new director of the Putnam County Office of Senior Resources, to introduce herself to the board.
Welcome, Marlene. Come on up to the microphone, please.
For me? Lovely, thank you.
Thank you so much. Before you start, I would just like to thank Councilman Farrell for bringing Marlene, excuse me, I almost called you Marlene here this evening. I think it's great for you to introduce yourself to our seniors and to the board, so have at it.
So yes, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. So like I said, my name is Marlene Barrett. I am the new director at the Office for Senior Resources. I have been with the department for a little over 13 years. I started as a caseworker, became deputy for a couple months, and then Mike retired, and I got promoted to to director. I also have the new deputy director as well, Kevin Monahan, today. So I just want to thank you, and I also want to kind of like just highlight a couple of things that we've done over the year, what we plan on doing. So we've been incredibly proud about the services that we've offered. We're always looking to expand and enhance. So some of the highlights are, I don't know if you heard about the GO-GO transportation program. So it is a new program that the state office helped us out with. So we had our taxi voucher program, which was doing really well. And now with GO-GO, it is a service where an older adult will call. They get their transportation arranged by either Uber, Lyft, or a taxi company. The taxi company that serves this area is Academy Taxi from across the river, and they've been absolutely fantastic. So a lot more older adults in this community have been able to get transportation, whether it be for medical transportation, socialization, whatever their needs are. So that is available at all times to them.
Is that a free service?
It is a free service, yes. So everyone gets 4 one-way trips a month, but there's obviously, there's wiggle room if something comes up. We do it on a case-to-case basis, but everyone is approved already for 4 one-way trips. So, and it's a pretty good, distance as well. White Plains, Danbury, Fishkill. We kind of gauge it from that. But yeah, so everything's been going really great. Have a lot of great feedback from that program.
If you don't mind, how
Sure.
should a senior, sign up for that or learn more about that if they are interested?
Of course, yeah, they can give us a call. Any caseworker can sign them up for this program. So they would just give us a call. We can sign them right up, for GO-GO right there. We could let them know about the program, send them information, and also I just want to expand. So through us is the free trips, but someone can also use that program on their own. It's been designed to help older adults and their caregivers. So if someone were to pay for it on their own, the caregiver could do it for them, and there's text messaging. So they set the trip up. There's a text message that says who's picking up mom or dad, what time. Another text message goes out, mom's been picked up, mom's been arrived at this location, and so forth. So it's really been really great. It's been piloted throughout the whole country.
Are they set fees, or is it like a taxi when they put a meter on for someone like that?
Yeah, it is kind of like the Uber, Lyft,
Okay.
however they determine that. Mhm. But they also let them know ahead of time how much the
Roughly.
trip would be. Yeah. Yep. Additionally, we have seen a steady increase to our attendance at the Friendship Center, post-pandemic. So that's been wonderful to see, especially utilizing the new center. I think also our evolution of our meals. We have a new nutritionist that's kind of put a little, changed it up a little bit, a lot more healthier. We now have Fresh Fish Wednesdays, which is a huge hit. So
I'm not
yeah,
a
so I say
fish
look
guy.
for next. I think it's cod next Wednesday. So that's been going over really well.
I can't. Not till Saturday.
We'll send you our welcome packet.
Now, Marlene, are any of those meals prepared at the center, or they're brought over, or?
I would say majority of them are prepared there. We do have a semi-central kitchen in Mayapack, so the bigger things. So, sometimes we do get the actual fish delivered. So, like, there's been times where the swordfish comes and they're, filleting. I don't know what the appropriate term, filleting. Okay. I'm like dicing. I don't know. He's the nutrition end of it. Actually filleting the fish right there. So, if it's bigger things, bigger pieces of meat are prepared in Mayapack, but our cooks go there, pick it up, and bring it. Everything else does get cooked in the kitchen. So we do have a cook at each location and a food service helper to do that. And they use the, everything is used. So the next day, it's probably going to be in the soup. So, we've got to try to find use for it all. Absolutely, absolutely.
We have a food scraps program, so we can talk about,
Oh, okay. Very good to know.
if you have any scraps.
Yeah.
Definitely we can figure out that.
So also in speaking about food, we're trying to continue to combat food insecurity. So there is a freezer at the site that Cornell Cooperative Extension has put in, and they are the ones that supply the food through Second Chance Foods. So if you go there, there's frozen meals in those freezers. No questions asked. Anybody, it could be an older adult that comes to the center, it could be someone off the street. They go in, they can take those meals, and like I said, no questions. We don't need to know any information.
To not just seniors, but anybody can go in, or is
Correct.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and there are, more and more freezers, so we do have them in 3 out of our 4 sites. I believe there's one in the Putnam Valley Library, Cove Care, I think, has one, so they are expanding the program throughout the county.
And there's one right here at our senior center.
Correct, yep.
Fantastic.
Yep, right there in the lobby.
And what are the hours, Marlene? Is that
The center,
is 9 to 2, is it?
the center is 9 to 2, so that's when our site manager is there. We do have a full-time outreach worker, so even though the door may be locked, if there's an appointment, if there's someone is there, but I would say the public would be probably 9 to 2.
Do you spend like one day a week there at all? Just curiosity.
Actually, tomorrow, we're coming back down. Actually, I have a meeting with Sylvia tomorrow, so yes, so we do go around to all of our sites. We have feedback committees for the food, so we always, they have the opportunity every single day to put in a comment card, but we do have food committees to get, other feedback or comments in regards to that. So we, make a way to each of our sites to make sure everything is going well.
Do you still have a van that goes out and picks people up and brings them to the center?
Absolutely.
Still.
Yes. Yes. So Chris is our driver. Yep. Goes out, picks everybody up. It's our VIP service to the site. And then on certain days, they do go shopping, food shopping. And I think Walmart is on there. And they're looking to go to, I think ShopRite is up 9 as well. So that's also included as part of the service. Yep. So also with Cornell Cooperative on Wednesdays also. Wednesday's a very popular day. You get your fish. There's also through Cornell the Meals on Main food truck. It is fresh produce and other food items that donated from supermarkets or other places that is free to whoever needs it. So they do make a stop at our Friendship Center. I know they do make other stops in the community. That has had an overwhelming positive response. It really is wonderful what they're doing there, and I'm really glad that they picked us to participate, because the older adults as well have been reaping that benefit. So
I just wanted to note to the board that Cornell Cooperative Program, that partnership, kind of also helped grow out of the ARPA funding that we put into Cornell Cooperative and brought it here. So they're doing amazing work.
Hope it continues.
Yeah, they're doing amazing work.
yes, that we appreciate everything they're doing, and then the volunteers as well that bring that food. Another exciting program that's being offered through the state office is something called Discover Live. We just launched it. It is live tours of various parts in the world. So we just had our first one. We visited Assisi, Italy. It's a live tour guide. The person is walking around with their little camera, telling you about all the different sites, giving you history and feedback, and you can interact with them. So if we had questions, we just typed it into the little Zoom, the person asked, and it's great. So we have that available at all of our sites. They've been kind of setting up. We have, I think, England, Egypt, a couple different places. So we are getting that set up, and it's been great, because not only is it available at our site, but we're also given the opportunity to give it to people that are homebound as well. So we have that, and like I said, it's been really great, and I can't wait. So I do make my way to all the centers, because I want to travel the world, from the comfort of our sites. So that's been really great. So what we have to offer person-wise, we have a wonderful outreach team, but I do got to say Philipstown hit the jackpot with Joanne Torres. She's been absolutely fantastic, boots on the ground. If you see that little white car skirting around,
That's our local rep.
that is yep.
Okay.
Yep, she is at the site Monday through Friday from 8 to 4.
I thought you were taking her place. That's why I asked if you were going to spend time there. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Because I know her. I met her once or twice.
Oh, yeah. No, she's been really wonderful. She's always looking for new initiatives, new programs to bring to the community. She partnered up with Drug World to put together homebound vaccines, which was great. So that Drug World actually went out into the community. She would, take the names, give them the information. They would go out there and give not only to Philipstown Cold Spring Garrison, they also went to Putnam Valley, and they said they would expand throughout the county if they were able to. So that has been phenomenal. And then also to expand upon the vaccine clinic given at the site. So the Putnam County Department of Health does do flu vaccines in the fall every year, but they're limited to just the flu vaccines. So Drug World said, hey, we can help with that. And now we had a flu clinic, and that's actually one of the flyers that's in there that offers not only the flu, but COVID and pneumonia as well. So we do plan on continuing that, just as I said, it's a one-stop shop. And needed as well, with especially how everything has been going this season. It's dip and dodge trying every disease out there. So she's been instrumental in doing that. She is bilingual, so if there are any clients that are in need, she's there. We all have we've been making a conscious effort to make sure that material is in English and in Spanish to all our community members. But like I said, that's also an added benefit. We are transitioning to a new caseworker, so Sally, who used to be here, has moved on from the position, but we do have someone else new, so she's been kind of acclimating herself down here, and she will be the caseworker for Putnam Valley and Cold Spring, so she will alternate between the two, but she's always available, and it's not that far of a drive either, so she should be.
Sally Brady?
Yes, Sally Brady, yep. Yeah, it was a sad loss. She now works for Adult Protective, so we didn't lose her completely, but it's very sad that we will miss her.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. I know it was tough, but like I said, now we have her in a different capacity, so it's really, we still talk to her every day, so it's been good. Other collaborations that we've been is with the Hub. They actually just concluded, and there's another flyer in there, a 4-week program called A Life in Review. So the participants reflected on their life experience through storytelling. So they reached out to us. I think one of their interns needed to do this program, and it was really good. So we plan on continuing and offering other programs that they have. As well as there's a caregiver support group. So we actually just added back our caregiver support group at the Philipstown Friendship Center. And I know they have one in the evening, so we're trying to join forces and say, if you have people that can only make it during the day, or if we have people that can only make it at night, and that's kind of been our stance, is to, join forces. We're only better if we're together. We, try to do everything when we know we can't. But if we join with other community organizations, that only is better for our clients. So they've been really wonderful, as well as the Alzheimer's Association. So last year we offered office hours. So their licensed social worker goes to each of our 4 sites 1 day a month, and she provides any guidance or referrals or resources in regards to any Alzheimer's or dementia. So her number is on there. People can make an appointment, or they could just show up while she's there. So that's been really wonderful. I'm really glad that they're able to continue that for this year. And then we have the Sheriff's Department coming and doing scams. There's a new one every single day, unfortunately. So we know they're going to be coming around, giving talks. They're always available. They've been absolutely wonderful. So we have our own personal liaison with the Sheriff's Department. So they've been really great, whatever we need. And we're also going to continue presentations throughout the year. So we have partnerships with Putnam Hospital. We are in talks with New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley to go around and do kind of health and wellness. So Heart Health Month, stroke awareness, fall prevention, they will have those kind of presentations. We plan on having Ms. Farrell there to speak on the ombudsman program. So anything, anything, knowledge is power, anything to help them out, whether it be wellness or anything helping in the community, as well as, what else are we doing? Oh, nutrition. Our nutritionist does nutrition education. So she'll go around, things that are better or healthy alternatives. And recently she joined with Cornell Cooperative's nutrition educator as well. They are able to do demonstrations and talking, so that was really a great collaboration for that. So there's always something happening. aside from the activities that we have, we also like to put those presentations as well. Like I said before, we always, like I said, we've come a long way. I know that we're not, there yet, and I'm really thankful that you had us here. I thank you so much for having us tonight. I think that these collaborations are great, and we need to have that feedback, to help your constituents. So our door is always open. Feedback, comments, whatever they may be, please do not hesitate to reach out to either Kevin or myself. Please refer anybody who has any questions to us. Like I said, we have a wonderful team. And also, you are welcome anytime at the site. Come stay for an activity. Come have lunch on the house. So I just want to thank you again for having us, and we look forward to more discussions.
Well, thank you. You obviously bring a lot of energy to this program, and we are fortunate to have you from the looks of things. We have a very vibrant senior community, and I'm sure you're aware of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are an active group and engaged. So I appreciate you coming this evening. And again, if you have any questions for us or need assistance from the town, please don't hesitate to reach out to us as well. So.
Oh, and thank you for your continued support with our outreach program, because we know that the town does fund part of that as well. So thank you for that.
Can I ask just one question there? So, and thank you for the spirit of collaboration, and just wanted to thank Mike before he left. We had always asked for data around the outreach worker and the meals, the new meals being provided and new outreach to Philipstown residents, and he shared that data, and it was so useful. And he noted that that's data that you supply in the New York State Office of Aging report every year. So if you're willing to share that information with us about new meals, that would be so helpful. That would be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I think, proof is in the pudding. So to show you what we're doing out there, absolutely. Whatever you need, you let us know.
Just a general thanks to Mike. For how many years did Mike put into
I
this?
think he was about there for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes, and now he's enjoying retirement. So gets
Well,
pictures from the
thank you
slopes.
so much. Yes, go ahead, Richard.
First of all, I'm really impressed by the whole program, and especially by the transportation program, utilizing Uber and things like that. I think that's brilliant. But I do have a question about that. What about like wheelchair-bound and disabled people? Are there vehicles through that program that can handle those people?
So not through that program, but thank you for mentioning that. So we do have our own medical transportation. So we do have a sedan, but we also do have a handicap accessible vehicle. So if somebody has a medical appointment, that is available to them.
Okay. Yep. And then my other question is, if you have any, I understand that New York Presbyterian, the whole community really relies on that, but I'm sure Senior Citizens specifically does. And, right now there's a bit of a doctor shortage over there. They just lost one of their doctors, and I guess they're having trouble replacing them. And I'm wondering if your offices, since you are in touch with them, and since it is meaningful to the community, if you have any influence or can get them, because I assume it's a matter of how much the people on the main level are willing to commit to this town, whether might not be a big profit center for them. So, if they're offering enough money for somebody to come here, or not enough because somebody, that's why the other person left. I don't know.
Right.
But, are you able to be in touch with them at all, or?
We can absolutely ask, and it's actually, I wasn't aware of that with New York Presbyterian, but we did hear the exact same thing from Putnam Hospital. There were other off-site locations that they were having a lot of hard time finding doctors to fill those vacancies. So I think everyone's feeling it all around, unfortunately.
Richard, you're referring to the actual site here where the physicians
Right,
are
yeah, it's
here.
right across the parking lot,
Right, which is very convenient.
It is, yes. They'll say, be right back, I get some blood work done, and then right across the parking lot. So, but absolutely, we can have that conversation. We're going to be meeting with them soon about our wellness program, so it can't hurt to ask them how's it going on the physician end. So,
Thank you. Welcome again, Marlene and Kim.
all right, thank you so much.
So nice.
Thank you
Wonderful
so
to meet both
much.
of you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Joanne has been great, too.
Next on the agenda is a resolution appointing Jim Olsen to the Board of Assessment Review, term ending September 30th, 2025.
So, as usual, when we have an opening, we had two people apply, two very qualified individuals. We interviewed, I did suggest that we appoint Jim Olsen. It is open for discussion. Anybody have any questions, concerns?
It's awful short term, right? Only 1 year this year?
So it's because the term was vacated
Oh,
by
is that why?
someone, so
Okay.
it's finishing out the current
Gotcha.
term, and then there'll
Okay,
be a
all right.
reappointment
Oh,
for the
okay.
full 5-year
Oh,
term,
okay.
that's
We're
how.
not letting anybody go that quick.
I was gonna say, that's the reason I asked. Okay.
So, anybody else?
I think he's an excellent candidate.
He is.
We met him, and it was he knows what the role is and understands it.
Right. And certainly came with the right demeanor and,
Mike, good demeanor.
yes, yes. So can I get a motion approving Jim Olsen to the Board of Assessment Review, term ending September 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is review and authorize the supervisor to sign the memorandum of understanding with the conditional authorization to execute the electricity supply agreement for the community choice aggregation program renewal. Yeah, he wants to plug he wants to plug the flash drive in to access the TVs. Can we do that?
This is about as high-tech as we get here. This is like a cutting edge.
If this works, this is a major.
Well, if we get a thing, we could do it right from here. Well, right through once we get a podium, it's a door from there. But you need the computer here too.
Look at that.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, do you need Glenn to come over there?
You gotta go hide in the closet,
You
Glenn.
gotta go over the closet and show what the.
It's comfy in there, I swear. Seal's coming out. Used to.
Control room back
In a community so full of techie people. You don't think that's gonna work, do you?
there. That's the trap door. One of our chairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for having me in tonight. I'm Glenn Weinberg from Jewel Community Power. This is sort of old hat for you guys, but so I'll go through this quickly. But I'm here tonight to discuss the process and timeline for the renewal of the CCA program, Community Choice Aggregation, the electricity supply program that the town has been in since 2019. And specifically tonight, we'll be discussing the approval of an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, which would authorize the supervisor to go ahead and award the CCA RFP should certain conditions be met. But this is really the opportunity for the board to sort of have that discussion together before the RFP results come in. So you were right, John. It's wanting to do something, but I don't know if advancing the slides is what it wants to do.
I would think you have to point it to where the computer is, but that's just. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's not a touch screen.
No, that's not, no, it's not a touch screen.
Can that be good? Where's that? Do you want me to go advance the slides for you?
Well, I can stand over there and advance the slides, but I don't know if
Then
We won't be able to hear you then.
Wanna grab that?
I don't mind doing it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Richard's got it. Thank you, Richard.
Oh, there he goes. So now he knows how to use the mouse.
The tried and true method. Thank you so much. So again, Jewel Community Power, we've been the town's energy consultant and CCA program manager since 2017, actually. Philipstown, the town of Philipstown was a founding member of the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, which is a collection of, or an aggregation of Hudson Valley municipalities that have gone through the CCA process together. Philipstown was one of the original 6. We're now up to 16 municipalities throughout the Hudson Valley. Jewel, we represent 60 municipalities throughout New York State, over 800,000 New Yorkers for programs like this and other programs, as well as sustainability initiatives and carbon reduction programs as well for municipalities. And we've supported customers in purchasing over 2 million megawatt hours of renewable power in New York, which we're really proud of. I know this is like one of those like funny money numbers, but it's a lot of power. And we've helped avoid more than 250,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So just really quickly, again, this is old hat for you guys, but community choice aggregation is a policy, a New York State policy that allows cities, towns, and villages in New York to determine the default energy offerings on behalf of their residents and small businesses. So whereas pre-CCA or outside of CCA, if a customer moved into town and set up their service, they'd automatically be defaulted into Central Hudson's monthly variable non-renewable service. This gives the town the option to choose a different default energy offering, primarily renewable offerings as well as fixed rate offerings, both of which Central Hudson is not able to offer. So it gives customers additional choice as well as access to renewables and is able, through the collective power of all those municipalities working together, supporting all and representing tens of thousands of customers, can dictate better terms and better customer protections through a competitive RFP process like the one we're discussing tonight. Okay. Again, really quickly, CCA is a program which is now about 10 years old in New York State. We've seen really steady growth. There's over 160 municipalities that have now authorized themselves to establish a CCA, including the 3 primary downstate programs. Here in the Hudson Valley, we've grown from 6 at launch. Again, the town was one of those 6 to now 16, more than doubled. In Westchester, similarly, from 20 to 31, and in Orange and Rockland, similar growth from 6 to 10. So we've seen pretty steady growth, and CCA is a key policy driver in supporting the town's renewable energy targets, which are now not targets anymore, they're mandates. 70% through law, the CLCPA, 70% renewable by 2030, and 100% carbon-free by 2040. It is important to note we are behind on those targets here in New York State, pretty seriously behind, but CCA actually has been one of the programs that has really been working to increase and support the demand of renewable electricity throughout the state. Just a bit on the RFP. Really, when we put these out, we are looking for as much data as we can get. We really focus on flexibility. So we want to see multiple term lengths. We want to see multiple products, different renewable levels. We want to see multiple rate types. We've always had a fixed rate in this program, and I expect that to continue, but we also allow variable rates. This RFP is pointed to a July renewal date. This current contract is going to expire at the end of June, so it's looking for a seamless transition to the new contract. But I just also want to highlight that we are allowing an extension offer from the current supplier, Direct Energy. So if they come in with an offer to extend the current contract for a short term, we'd also consider that as well in terms of our recommendations to the community. Ultimately, it'll be up to you how you go, but we're looking for both renewal as well as extension offers through this RFP. Okay. A little bit on the timeline. We issued again in January. The MOU that we're going to discuss tonight is due back next week, but we're talking about it tonight, so that shouldn't be an issue. We're going to get the final pricing on the 19th of February, and that's when we'll come back. We'll have a conference call with all the communities to discuss that pricing and we'll give our recommendations.
Similar to last time, it'll be a different rate based on 100%, 50%, and the 10% renewal.
Exactly. So there'll be different terms that are offered and different bidders, of course. So there's a lot of sort of data. I'll bring to that conference call a condensed sort of chart and then highlight where we think the value is, which may be also not to award at all, right? So that does happen. It's fairly common. If we're not seeing pricing that is really compelling, we would make a recommendation to wait and see if the market sort of settles down a little bit. Right now it's fairly volatile. There's a lot sort of going on in markets. The weather drives a lot of that, but also, for instance, the tariffs that just went in place for Canada especially affects electricity pricing here in New York, because some of our power is actually imported from Canada, hydropower mostly. So that can drive price up, and there's just generally a lot of speculation about how that might impact pricing going forward. So we are seeing, yesterday market was down, day before it was up quite a bit, so we're watching that. But volatility, like in any commodity market, can drive sort of forward pricing up. If we go forward, if the town chooses to go forward, we'll have that opt-out period. Every eligible customer in town will get a letter. It'll explain the program, the rates, as well as their options, including to opt out, not participate at all. There's 3 types to opt out: by phone, by online form, and by prepaid postcard. That letter will come with a prepaid card. If they don't want to participate, they can just send that back in the mail. It's also important to note that if you have opted out, if any customer has opted out of any previous round of this program, they will not receive a letter. So once you've opted out, you're sort of off the list.
Automatically out on that.
You're automatically out. You can choose to come in, as well as anybody can choose to come in. Even
Get notified, hey, we're doing this again, do you want to opt in or no?
they won't get a letter, but
Okay.
there will be doing meetings and putting out ads and paid logos. So there's other outreach that we're going to be doing to let people know this is happening again, but they will not get the letter. Only folks that
Gotcha.
are sort of going to be automatically enrolled, should they choose not to opt out, will get that letter in the mail.
Gotcha.
So the MOU that we're going to discuss tonight, there's really 2 important pre-approvals in there, and then 1 important decision. So it pre-approves the contract itself for the program. It's 98% the same as the one that's for the current, but there are a couple of updates. They're mostly related to sort of regulatory changes that have happened in New York State, but it is important just to approve that contract again. But more importantly, it approves pricing caps or price benchmarks. So this is the opportunity again for the board to see that and say, okay, well, we're comfortable. We don't know exactly what the pricing is going to be on the 19th, but we're comfortable that if it comes in below X, that anything below that is acceptable to us. The lower the better, of course, but that's the function of those pricing benchmarks in there, because we don't know exactly what the pricing is going to be standing here today, but we do have a very good sense of what we consider to be good competitive pricing for each of the 3 products. And the important decision in there is, what is the default product? So if you recall, the town sets the default renewable option, 50% or 100%. That is, so if somebody gets that letter and they do nothing, they just throw it in the garbage, or they choose not to act, they will be automatically enrolled in whichever product the town chooses. But ultimately, it's always up to the end consumer to make that choice. So if they want the other one, so if you select 50% and they want 100%, that's up to them. Or if they want to opt out, that's of course up to them as well. We are recommending 50% this time around, just for price, to maximize price. So far, everybody that I've met with, all the other communities that I've met with this week, have selected a 50% default. That shouldn't pressure the town to do anything, but just as additional information. So far, everybody has gone with the 50% default. And really importantly, the MOU is not binding unto itself. So if you go ahead with that MOU, it does not mean you're definitely going to sign a contract. It does not commit the town. The MOU is an indication for us that the town wants to move ahead to the final pricing round. And we will let the bidders know, for instance, what you selected as your default and that you've signed to that MOU, but it is not binding unto itself. Only if you give us written approval when we get that final pricing in to go ahead and award the RFP and execute the ESA will we do that.
So the MOU is just establishing the size of the pool that you're going to be purchasing for.
Yeah,
And probably adjust the pricing accordingly.
Exactly, and from your perspective, it's the board authorizing you to go ahead and sign that should those conditions be met. But that's right, from the other side of the
If we do approve it this evening, there's nothing binding. We can, when the final pricing comes in, we can say, we're out of this.
exactly right.
Steve,
Yep.
do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I think we can skip the next one. I just want to, for the interest of time, a little bit of information. I'll send these through, of course, about the contract itself. So this is historic Central Hudson pricing the last 3 years. So you can see it's very unpredictable month to month, a roller coaster sort of effect. The orange line is indicatively where we are seeing CCA pricing. So again, not final yet, but indicatively what CCA bidders tell us they expect their bids to look like for a non-renewable price. So a comparable to Central Hudson, but fixed at about 10 cents. So if you see over the last 3 years, Central Hudson, about half the time they're higher than that, about half the time they're lower than that. Sometimes they're at February 22, they were at 22 cents. A few months later, they were at 4 cents. That's just sort of the nature of the beast with a variable monthly utility price. CCA, of course, offers a fixed price that over time tends to be very comparable. It is important to note, though, that over the last year or so, Central Hudson has been mostly lower than the CCA price, right? So that is important. The previous contract saved folks a lot of money. This current contract hasn't as much. That, just so you have full information going into it. But when you take a look at sort of the history behind it, the CCA price tends to be very competitive and very comparable to the Central Hudson price over time. Okay.
And at any point during the period, if we do sign, somebody feels that they're paying more than they should be, they can opt out of the program.
Exactly. They can leave at any time, no fee, no penalty. They can come back in 2 months later if they want to.
Just if they have that card at home, they can just submit that card at any time and say, I'm out of this.
That's right, or phone or web.
Phone
Yep.
or email or the prepaid card.
Exactly. Yep. So to dig into that really quickly, what we're seeing indicatively, again, this isn't final pricing, but I just want to keep putting that disclaimer out there. The Central Hudson price over the last 12 months, really it's the calendar year 24. What New York State says is you can offer, and this is not just a rule for CCA, but for any customer shopping for alternate supply in New York State, period. They can only get a non-renewable price if it is less than the last 12-month average for the utility plus 5%. So they give you a little bit of wiggle room. That number for this contract period coming up is 8.7 cents. That's where Central Hudson has been. Again, indicatively, we're seeing a higher number from CCA bidders, which is a reflection not of the past, of course, but of what the market is going to do over the contract period. So that's a higher number, 10.3. What that means is that this time around, we do not expect to be able to offer a conventional or standard price because of that New York State rule that says if it's above 8.7, you can't offer it. So that's an important, yes, Jason.
Can you explain that just again? So like that 10 cents up there, the CCA bidders, is that for non-renewable?
For non-renewable, what they told us before we issued the RFP, here's where we're seeing the market. Yeah. So hopefully it'll be a little bit lower when we get the final pricing back. But as a sort of, number to have in your mind of what to expect, it's going to be about 10 cents. The Central Hudson price has been closer to 9 cents.
So that closer to 9 cents is Central Hudson looking backwards. The 10 cents is CCA bidders betting forward into the future.
Exactly, and it's not, and you're pointing out exactly the issue with that benchmark, which is it is not at all apples to apples, right? You're comparing a past number to a number that's gone to a number that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But New York State not to go down the rabbit hole of the transparency or lack thereof of utility pricing in New York State, but that's all we have in New York, is what the price has been. Unlike other states where we already know what the utility price is going to be going forward, in New York, it's anybody's guess month to month. So what New York State says is the best thing we can do to try to protect consumers is to look back over the last year and tell these alternate suppliers they have to be able to beat that in order to offer it. So it's a constraining number, and in this case, it's not a realistic number, unfortunately. So it would be, going forward, it would be a renewable only program, and that's something to keep in mind as.
I have to bring up the Columbia Power thing.
Yeah, sure.
So they lock in at, well, whatever the rate is.
Yeah.
If there's a failure or, some sort of natural disaster, or God knows where we're going to be with everything else, that rate is fixed. Where is the security blanket there? I don't understand where it's coming from.
To keep them in it, you mean?
Right, to
Yeah.
keep that rate. Because in your position, how can you say,
Yeah.
we're holding this number? I mean,
Well, so they're contractually obligated to do so, right? As was Columbia. Right. Columbia chose, we're willing to take the legal risk of knowing we're in breach of contract and not even being able to serve customers in New York State again, because they were taking a loss on it. And that's what they chose to do, and ultimately we got a settlement and customers are getting some back, and so that is what it is. They made that choice. It was a decision, and if somebody wants to walk out of a contract and take the legal consequences, they can always do that. However, what I will say, the most important thing that we've done, we have tuned up the contract to prevent those things from happening to the extent that we can, but the most important change is we are really only dealing with the blue chip bidders at this point. Really, we expect 2 bids from 2 of the largest energy companies with the biggest balance sheets in the country, and they have been at this for a very long time, and they would not, in our view, jeopardize their whole New York State business for one contract, right?
That deal was too good to be true, I think.
The Columbia. Well, they didn't. Yes, they didn't properly protect themselves when they offered that price, and that's a multi-million-dollar mistake on their part. But the shame of it for us was that our customers didn't get to enjoy that price for longer, but they did end up getting some retribution from it.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we can. Actually, one more point on this slide. It is important to note, though, if you look on the right side of that chart, the second and third lines, the second line is what we're seeing from the CCA bidders. So 11 cents roughly for 50% renewable, 12 cents for 100% renewable. The line below it is what the average customer could get, the best offer that the average customer could get if they went out on their own. So what we are seeing is that the CCA price is about half a penny to a penny better than what a customer can get on their own. Ideally, I'd like to see that spread be even bigger, right? I'd like to see the CCA price be a little bit farther below what an average customer can get on their own. And that will factor in when I come back on the 19th to make that recommendation. If that number's too close, again, if a customer can go out and get the same sort of deal or comparable deal as the CCA is offering, then there isn't a ton of reason to go ahead, right?
What's the bulk offer? It's not there.
Exactly. Now, typically, I will say, CCA tends to be 15, 20, 25% lower. We're not quite seeing that here. We're seeing sort of more like 5 to 7% lower. So if that holds, there is a reasonable chance that I'll come back and say, not quite right yet. If we get more to the 10, 15% below, that would be something that I would be looking at to say, okay, there's real value here in these bids. So just as a heads up going in. Okay, yeah, I think we can move on. And lastly, the action items for you, again, the MOU, just sign that with your default selection by the 13th. Again, we are looking into, because of that volatility, we are looking into the possibility of a short-term contract extension, because what's important to note here is that this contract is up end of June. Summer tends to be another period of high prices and high volatility. So if we're not seeing the value in a long-term renewal, We may recommend a short-term extension so that we can continue to offer a competitive fixed rate through the summer months, and then revisit the pricing sort of in the fall timeframe. So nothing set there, but just as a heads up, that's something that we are looking into, and we're talking with the current supplier, Direct Energy, about the viability of a short-term extension. Ultimately, it would be of course up to you if you want to take that or not, but it's something we're looking into. And then again, the 19th, we'll come back with our final pricing and recommendations.
Do you know when that is on the 19th? The webinar?
I think it's noon. So usually we get pricing at 11, and then we have our conference call at noon. Yeah.
I just had one question. I thought how many people can you service for? I thought I saw 800,000 up there.
We represent 800,000 New Yorkers. Oh, statewide.
Can you accommodate 800,000 people to want to get into this program? Is that?
Yeah, but it's all it's in separate regions. So here in the Hudson
Understood.
Valley, it's more like 120,000 or something like that.
In the Hudson Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, the 800,000 is a statewide number.
Statewide?
Yeah.
And you can provide enough power for those 800,000 people?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, New York State actually has a reasonable surplus of power these days. Doesn't always feel that way in the summer but yeah.
Any comments from the board?
So,
Jason?
if you were in this program a couple years ago, you were out of it already, so you would be getting another card in the mail no matter who you are, right? Unless I opted out.
Unless you had previously opted out, that's right. Yeah.
I mean,
Or if you have your own alternate supplier.
If you have solar, you can still.
Solar, you can still participate, but if you had a contract on your own, you won't get a letter.
So I certainly would support us signing the MOU, or me signing the MOU. I will leave it up to the board discussion, and anybody have any comments?
I just have a question about, in the MOU, the municipality can choose one, the blended product or the 100% renewable. I think in terms, we have to come to a consensus as a board to pick one, is that correct? Okay.
And you're recommending the 50%?
I'm recommending the 50% on a price, really on a price value basis.
Right.
Just because it's, it offers, and again, you sort of set it, and then people can step up to 100% if they want to.
Do
Yeah.
so, right.
And we chose 50% last
Yeah, we did.
contract, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we have to make that decision tonight too, or is that part of the MOU?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Glenn, you were saying none of this is binding, but it does, like when we turn to the second page, those electricity rates, those numbers, are those the parameters the town is agreeing to? That if they come below that on that February 19th call, you're gonna say, do you approve? Like,
So there's two conditions in the MOU so the one condition is that the price is below that. If it's not below that, sort of all bets are off, right? But if the
1249 and the.
exactly.
Okay.
If the price is below that, the second condition is that we get final written approval on the day, once we have executable pricing, to say, yes, go ahead and award the RFP. So just as, John, you asked earlier, if you can sign the MOU and then decide later, hey, look, prices are okay, but not good enough for us, you can still decide not to.
So what I said earlier, if all the communities sign the MOU, you know the size of your buying pool when you're going to bid for the power.
Yes,
Right,
but the suppliers also know that it's not, that what they've signed is not a binding
Right.
agreement, yeah.
But that just enables you to say, yep, Philipstown is on board, provided the price is.
Exactly,
Um,
because
a
those
rate.
same numbers, those same benchmarks are those same ones in the RFP. So in other words, so they know to be compliant with the RFP period, they have to beat those numbers. And
So we won't know for sure if we are contracted in until after those prices come out and we sign that contract on, what was the date? February
19th,
The
exactly,
19th,
yeah.
which Jason will be on that call.
I think you probably. You're
We want you both.
You're the big pen, Joe.
We want you both if you can make it.
I
yeah.
think I'm busy, but.
Can I ask another quick question? So the two prices, Glenn, on that second page, the 1249 and the 1189, that's for the 100% and the 50%? are those two below the lowest retail renewable ESCO?
That is the best, if you went today and tried to shop, that's the best offer you would get.
Got you.
Yep.
And the second question would be, what happens if the town on the 19th says, we don't want to do this, all the other municipalities says, we do, what happens to the town? Do we just,
All the customers on July 1st will go back to Central Hudson.
okay, so we're out of the CCA. If all the other municipalities say, we're in, and we say these prices aren't good enough, then it just means we drop out of the CCA.
Yeah, every municipality is completely sovereign nation in this regard. It's just a matter of putting us together for the sake of getting a better price together.
Yeah.
But you all you're not bound to each other through any intermunicipal anything, you know? Yeah.
And can we come in like whenever we want? Like say if we're like, no, we're not ready to make this decision, and then come May, we're like, oh, listen, maybe we are.
You could come in, but you wouldn't necessarily get the same deal that everybody
It
got
would be
together.
that deal during that time.
Yeah, you would
Okay.
we would go out to bid again for just you or whoever else was in that position.
And the
Yeah.
bottom line, whether we opt the town in, if we opt the town in, each individual homeowner can opt out.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
nothing binding by the town signing us up for this that you have to be in it.
Exactly.
You
It's-
can take yourself out of it.
Yeah.
But it's the environmental statement we're making as well, that 50% of our energy, if we go that route, will be green energy. And at some point, we're gonna have to be 100%.
Exactly, and that's why I said, New York State that's why I point that out. New York State is desperately behind in reaching its goals. CCA is the one sort of, I know this is sort of like whatever, but it's the one sort of, effort, initiative in New York State that's really working, and growing and showing real demand and for new renewable electricity. The supply hasn't kept up with the demand, unfortunately.
But you said there's an abundance currently of
There's
renewable energy.
enough to buy, but when I mean supply, I mean to get to 70% of all of New York by 2030. That's we're not on pace for that, but there's still plenty.
Currently, there's plenty currently.
Yeah, for the
There's plenty
right.
of current available.
Well, I would hope so.
All right, so let's, I'm in favor of doing, signing up the MOU for the 50%. You guys support it?
Yes,
Yeah.
100% I agree.
Right, and then we will not be contracted into this until we get a final price, and I sign off on that at some point. So can I get a motion to authorize me to sign a memorandum of agreement, understanding, for the community choice aggregation plan at a 50% renewable rate?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
Jason, sign up for that call.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, thank you.
Next is review of the responses to the Solar RFP issued for a solar power purchase agreement for installation of a solar power system on the roof of the town of Philipstown Highway Garage.
So I did speak with Martha Upton this morning, just to clarify a few items. The poor thing is in Arizona this week, so she couldn't attend, but I will turn it over to Jason or Bobby to go ahead and run us through this, Jason? Or-
Yeah, I'll start off, and then if Bob pass it to you, or do you want to say words first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. One note from Martha, there is just to strike from this agenda, it says solar RFP issued for a solar power purchase agreement, just to strike that, because we're not doing a solar power purchase agreement. But so I think we issued this RFP a second time because we all decided, the first round, we had only gotten one response and we want there to be a little bit more competition. So we ended up getting 3 responses from the, putting back out the RFP. And I think the background things to think about is we've got $270,000 already secured from a NYSERDA grant to buy a solar system. That what we've proposed is a town-owned system, so it would be, if it comes under that 270, we'd be buying the system outright, which has a lot of benefits. And so some of those benefits, some of the things to think through, it all gets kind of complicated, is if we buy a system under 270, we get to, let's say the difference is $50,000 because the system's less, we get to reallocate that money towards another town project. A second thing to remember is because we own the system,
We can sell power back to Jewel.
because sell some really low cost electricity to Jewel. Because we own the system, there's something where the town, if this federal policy sticks around, we can file for the investment tax credit as a direct payment to the town, which is 30% of the project cost. But in some of these proposals, if you're buying domestic solar panels, it's up to 40% of the project cost. So that means that the town, once the project's built, can get a direct payment back of up to 40% of the cost of the
So
project.
despite we're not paying for it,
Exactly.
it's coming from a grant.
So that's where it gets complicated. The state said that they won't, they'll pay for everything else, but they won't pay for that portion of the tax credit. So when it comes to that decision, we're either gonna have to say, we're not gonna apply for the tax credit, and we'll just pay for it all of the grant, which we can do, or the town at that point would have to front that 30%.
Right, which we're not in a position to do currently.
No, not right now, but this wouldn't be built, I guess, until,
Well,
you know,
it should be built sometime this year.
yeah. So I guess that's a real conversation piece. So that would leave, I mean, in one of these proposals, that would leave about $85,000 on the table that the town wouldn't have if we. So the only other things I'd say is that, you know, because we're owning the system, right? I think the things we want to look at here is just the you know, we're kind of comparing all these three different proposals. The annual system size, and there is some complexity there because we've talked about maxing out the system on the roof, but there is some complexity, which I think Bob and I were just talking about, we got to learn a little bit more about. If you produce more than 110% of what the highway garage is using, that can be a little tricky in terms of trying to use it in other municipal accounts. But so we're looking at the annual production size. We're looking at what the out-of-pocket cost would be. All of these proposals we can afford with the $270,000 grant. We're looking at the price per watt of projects. That is basically what it costs to build the system. So it's kind of showing you the competitiveness of how these vendors' costs run. And then I think most importantly, because we're going to own the system, looking at the warranties is really important, especially the inverters, because those are like the really expensive items that often will break. And so
Right, if the inverter fails, the system's down.
the system's down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, some of these have much longer warranties for those inverters, like 25 years. Operations and maintenance, if these firms will provide that and deal with any, you know, breakage or malfunction, the amount of time it's gonna take. And then if we are gonna look at the ITC, if these companies have done that work before, helping the town apply for that direct payment. And then I think the last thing I'd say is, and Bob, you've mentioned this, is NYSERDA does a list of qualified, I think they call them qualified solar.
Yeah, qualified, NYSERDA qualified installers.
Exactly. So that is based on, I think, 6 years of being at the top in terms of quality installations. And so New York State Solar Farm is one of 3 platinum in the state, NYSERDA, and Lighthouse Solar is one of 3 platinum. So they're both top 3 in the state. Croton Energy Group is not listed as either a platinum, gold, or bronze.
Yeah,
So
they're
that's
not-
just a
they're
thing
not-
to.
They're not either.
Yeah, so I think that's, Bob, I mean, I know, so that's really it in terms of thinking about that.
Yeah.
But Bob, what?
Well, again, if, one other thing here is, the lifespan of the panels themselves. One is 40 years, the other one 30 years. Also too, you know, New York Solar Farm did do the installation of the, rec center, so we do have, you know, firsthand knowledge and firsthand how they did. And I believe everyone was very pleased with what they did. Again, I don't know if we're making, one other question I have, which I don't know 100% about, which is my little bit of concern, is that, you know, I was always under this, I always brought this thing up, get the biggest system we can, and we can use with this thing called net metering, right? So if we use or we don't use all the power up to solar, up at the highway garage, we can put it to the solar, the salt shed up there. We could send it to a meter here. But after reading these proposals, I don't really quite understand how that works.
Yeah.
To be 100%.
Yeah,
I'm not saying, I know, I'm not, so I think we need to get a little bit more knowledge about that net metering piece, because it does make a difference at the end of this. It can make a difference of, 15, 20%, right? So, again, I mean,
Do we know what the usage is for the highway garage? Anybody?
yeah, I do. I wrote, it's like, I think it's close to 70-something kilowatts or something. But the other thing about that, I was signing vouchers earlier today, and I noticed I come across a voucher for Central Hudson for the garage up there.
Right.
And was substantially higher than last year's bill. It was
'cause
like.
not everything was functioning
Yeah,
last year.
right. So that's my other concern, is that when we gave them the electric bills last year, they really weren't 100% accurate. And that's why I wanted to go with the highest, biggest system we could to cover this. That was, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it only makes sense.
Right. So I think the big question I have is, I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was 70-something kilowatts for the.
And that was last year.
Yeah, that's for, so my concern, like I said, I just happened across that bill today. I said, wow, this is a little bit different from last year. So that's my concern, make sure the 96 we have here, we're at the 70, the 50, and the 81, to ensure that's gonna be enough to cover us. And the second part of that would be the net metering piece. If we do, obviously want to produce as much power as we can, but produce as much power as we can, if the excess, we can't do anything, doesn't benefit his thing, where is the benefit for it? That's my concern.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Yeah.
So,
So the
I don't know if
salt
we're making
shed-
a decision,
The salt shed's on its own meter.
correct, because I noticed that today, because the bills were right next to each other.
Right, so I'm wondering if we are producing more than we are using, whether, I mean, it's right there on the same property, whether we could do a sub-panel from
Well, you
the
don't need.
metering and connect those two
Okay,
units.
I understand what you're saying, a sub-panel, but the way the net metering is, it doesn't, you can go to any meter. Okay, so I mean,
Apply the credits.
right,
But
exactly.
it's our system, so we can.
They can apply it to the water treatment plant
Right.
in Continental Village. They can apply it to wherever municipal
Okay, so there's no,
builds it.
So
Drawback.
my thinking is, like I said, this is my idea. I mean, I would like to have all these companies come in, sit before us and give a presentation and they ask these questions directly to them, so we can, all of us can completely understand exactly how the net metering piece works, and to ensure that the system we're putting on is gonna cover what we're using currently today.
Yeah.
So I would like to postpone or do this, because we're supposed to table this until we have a workshop. And I'd like to hopefully, if we could, schedule a workshop either next Wednesday. Don't we have we do have a workshop on the 19th already. Who was that workshop with?
that's to discuss the GGIS.
I mean, could we do it, I mean, so the only, I agree with everything Bob's saying, and I think if Martha was here, she would say if we can do it next Wednesday, because NYSERDA is just saying to us, spend the money quickly, because what's going on with federal government clawbacks and freezes, they want to get the money committed.
So let's meet next Wednesday.
If we can get next Wednesday, and is Martha back
I
then?
don't know. Well,
I would like,
do
yeah,
that.
I don't
She might
know.
wanna stay
It would be
there
nice
or
for her to be at that workshop as well.
Can I just say,
Okay.
can we eliminate CEG? Is that something that you guys would be comfortable with, and
Yeah,
just bring the
I-
top two in? And
Yeah,
let the-
I agree with
They're
that.
the two platinum providers, so obviously the
Right.
most experienced, just for time's sake, that we could
Yeah, I
just
think
have
that's a
those
good,
two.
I think that's a good idea, John. I
Okay.
agree with that. I don't know if Jason
Let-
agrees with that. but-
We'll schedule times, whether they're available next
Right.
Wednesday. I think for a system this size, that they would make themselves available.
yeah.
I reached out to New York Solar. They said they would do whatever they can to come in any day that we want them to.
And how is Lighthouse lifetime workmanship warranty? I mean, is that really, I was just questioning that in my mind, that they could get,
question for them, right?
yeah,
If they can
Yeah.
come
if they
in.
come in.
I mean, they're just, yeah, they're maximizing. I mean, the only thing, unless it's a time thing, the only thing I would say against eliminating Crone Energy Group right now is just where they're coming in with their project schedule in terms of ability to get something done very quickly.
18 weeks.
Yeah, 18 weeks is a lot lower, and they are the lowest cost system, although they're the smallest. So I don't know. Does it make sense to eliminate them yet if we're gonna do it and just ask them you know,
Well, I guess they can all three come in, and
if they're.
I just don't know how we're gonna facilitate that. And
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing, and we don't want, do we want them in here, one company presenting while the other ones are in the audience? I mean, that's, I know, that's what I'm saying, it's tough to
Would be a
do.
little odd.
Would be
I mean,
tough.
I'm sure these questions, if you guys have a list of additional questions, we could probably email and get them answered, right? You guys?
Well, Jason put out a lot, I don't know if everyone saw Jason's email.
Mm-hmm.
Jason put out, a pretty intense email about some questions, but obviously we have more
Yeah.
now than we originally had,
Yeah, I
so.
think
we
you
could-
keyed in on the most important one remaining, which is, like,
Where
like,
is it going?
yeah, like, how do we get our most accurate, like, usage up there? If that's last year, because they're all designing it based on.
Right, 'cause that's what we had.
So how do we even get,
Last year, I don't think this time of year, the building was fully functional, because the wash bay, I don't think was functional
No,
yet.
that
There
wasn't
were systems
100%.
that weren't
And
100%.
in the wintertime, you typically use more electric anyway, as
Yeah,
anybody
it's
does.
Based on the storms, because they're there more, if there's more activity, but, how about we, send that email to these companies, and we can make a decision next Wednesday, instead of bringing them in here and facing each other. And
Or we
facing-
could possibly do a Zoom call.
We
you mean
could.
with each of them, try to set up a call with each of them, so we're asking, because there are these questions that are complicated,
Yeah.
like that Bob's point, there's like, it,
Because even if I send them an email, I'm not sure if I'm gonna still understand the net metering piece myself. I
we could
mean,
bring them in separately, just do
Well-
like 20 minutes or 15 minutes per group and just can it be virtual?
yeah, we could, well, if it's virtual, then we would have to be Zoom, right?
Because then it would be really easy to just do like 15 minutes and just ask them the questions.
Well, how about you two
Okay.
do that
All right.
Zoom with these two companies, and come back next Wednesday, you guys can make a presentation, and we can select next Wednesday. So can I get a motion to table number 7 until next Wednesday's meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye, and I vote aye. This one's easy.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Van Tassel to sign the contract with Max Garfinkel as Wetlands Inspector and Natural Resource Officer for fiscal year 2025.
So I am thrilled to present Max to be our Natural Resources Officer again for the 2025 season. Max is an amazing professional and provides countless amounts of information and opinion to the town of Philipstown. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you, Max.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Van Tassel and the town board to sign the contract for the Continental Village Volunteer Fire Department for fiscal year 2025 as approved in the final budget adopted by the town board on November 20th, 2024.
Also proud to sign this contract, a great group of folks down in Continental Village providing a great service and always very careful with their budgeting and the way they operate their business. So can I get a motion supporting me signing the contract with the Continental Village Fire Department for the 2025 year?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Excuse me.
Next is a resolution authorizing the Highway Department purchase out of the new equipment line of a trailer from Ness Automotive in the amount of $13,995.
So this was, part of their new equipment line for 2025. Can I get a motion approving the Highway Department to buy from Ness Automotive, a new equipment line trailer for $13,995?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution authorizing the Highway Department to rent a sweeper at New York State contract pricing for $8,800 per month.
I just have one question. Do we know how many months they're looking to rent this for?
I don't, but I'm assuming it's gonna be a springtime issue. Obviously, they're not gonna sweep now.
No,
so-
just curiosity if we knew.
He'd be pretty reasonable, I'm sure, about keeping it and getting rid of it in a reasonable
no.
amount of time, so.
Yeah.
I have a question. It says
Sure.
Ontario, is it in Canada? Ontario, Canada? The company? I mean, is it impacted by?
Yeah, it looks-
Oh, it's the USA division of, so I just don't know if it's impacted by any of the,
Yeah, I mean,
Changes going
we can
on.
table this. He just not gonna rent it anytime soon, I'm sure. So if you guys wanna get ask some questions as far as the length of time he's anticipating renting it, I am fine with it. I don't think this is any rush if you wanna table this. You guys wanna table it? Can I get a motion to table it until, We could do it next Wednesday also, and we can get some information.
Okay. I'll reach out to Adam just to see about what
So the
his
length-
timeframe and
approximate
length.
length of rental.
So we're not concerned about being from Ontario though, right? Just the length?
Yeah, the
Okay.
length, right.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so can I get a motion to table item 11 until next Wednesday?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is Councilman Angell to provide an update on a proposed local law to enact a comprehensive solar energy policy.
Oh man, we talked about solar enough. I'm gonna mostly pass this over to Steve. I'm just gonna say that Steve organized a meeting with Greg, Ron, myself to review that draft local law and make sure it works, given other town perspectives. Yes, and I think our hope is to get it back in front of the board at the next board meeting. I'm just throwing that in there.
Well, we're gonna try for March. I can't promise. It might be April. So we have gone over, well, Councilman Angell has prepared or obtained a draft of a solar energy system law for the town. And it deals with, it tries to facilitate placement of solar panels and streamline solar energy sources within the town. And we went over the law, and its basic structure is very sound. There are a few sections in it that need to be clarified or rewritten. There are other sections which need to be harmonized. Some of the terminology has to be made uniform throughout it. I won't say it's a major redraft, but it certainly is a redraft. And Jason has provided me with his notes. I have my notes. I'm waiting on Ron Gaynor's notes. Don't think Greg, he sent me an email. I'm not sure if he sent me his yet or not, but I'm going to have them all very shortly. I have most of them. And I'll prepare a revised draft of it. And I think we should probably have another meeting with, or Zoom meeting with Jason and Greg and Ron and myself to make sure that everybody agrees all the bugs, at least what we perceive to be all the bugs are out of it. And then we'll be presenting it back to the town board along with a secret EAF, and we'll begin the process, if the board's so inclined, of amending the town code to include that. I'd like to tell you that I could have it for you for March, but I'm going away on vacation. There's the Association of Towns. It's a short month. I just don't know that I can get it done. But if you can't have it for March, you'll certainly have it for April. And, we'll move forward with it.
All righty. Well, thank you. So we'll look forward to it being available at some form, in draft form, and then we'll probably end up reviewing it, final draft of it, April.
Yes, I think that's the plan.
Sound good? Yep. Everybody happy with that? That's fine. All right.
Next on the agenda is a zoning code update committee inquiry.
So I've provided the board with a memo on this. As I'm sure you all recall, the zoning code update committee was tasked with, among other things, coming up with proposal for regulation of petroleum storage within the town. And there are a number of different elements to it, things from very large storage tanks to mixed uses like we saw with the Krasnicki application. One of the ones that's come up for review is gasoline stations and convenience stores that sell gasoline, that act as gasoline stations. And right now, under your code, gasoline stations are allowed everywhere in the town except for the SR district and for convenience stores that sell gasoline in the industrial manufacturing district. It's the vast majority of land within the town of Philipstown. And your code provides that the town is environmentally sensitive as far as the aquifer. In fact, the entire town is an aquifer overlay district. So one of the obvious issues to tackle was limiting the areas of town in which gasoline stations and convenience stores that sell gasoline can operate. There are two, I won't say schools of thought, but proposals that are being considered by the zoning code update committee. And the first one is an outright ban on gasoline stations in the town of Philipstown.
Additional ones, not eliminating
The ones who are there would be grandfathered.
Right, of
which means if they shut down and stopped acting as gasoline stations,
don't get it back.
they would not come back. And you certainly could undertake to do that. There are municipalities who zone certain uses out of their borders. It's a delicate process because you've got to, if you want to zone a particular use out of your municipality, consider both your internal need for that use and regional needs for that use. I remember a number of years ago, the town was thinking of zoning sand and gravel mines out, and you really couldn't quite do that because there's a regional need for building materials, and so what you did was you limited where they could be allowed. So if you want to do that, you certainly can go down that road. You're going to have, if you want to be safe from potential lawsuits challenging it, and frankly, to satisfy your obligations in seeker review, you're going to have to pay for a study to be done. Now, you have a map. I gave it attached to the memo, and it looks like there probably are enough gasoline stations in the town to serve your needs. I mean, you're going to have to look into potential growth going forward and see what the needs now and so forth and so on. But you're going to have to hire somebody to actually prepare that study if that's the route you want to go. The other way that you could approach this is to create an overlay district. An overlay district for gasoline stations. You can say that they're not going to be allowed in some portions of the town, and I think residential neighborhoods should be off the table right off the bat.
And just to be clear, none of this applies to the two villages. It's all.
Oh, yeah,
outside.
no, this is
Right.
just
So
town
no,
land,
I know
not village.
we're clear on it, but just so the public understands that it's not within
This is
the.
zoning just for the town, this
Right.
does not apply to the
Right.
two villages. And in terms of areas which are open to commercial development, 9D, I don't think gasoline stations should be on at all, frankly. You're so close. I know you have some, they'll be grandfathered, but you shouldn't allow any others in there. I mean, but anyway. But there are some other small commercial areas which you might want to consider. But I think what you would want to do is put in your overlay district provisions that an applicant would have to really have a very solid basis to say that there's no environmental danger from putting gasoline station here. I think you'd also want to have spatial limitations on how close together they should be. Philipstown isn't the type of place where you should have 4 gasoline stations on the 4 corners of an intersection. And in fact, if you made your spatial distances, or the requirement of distances far enough, you could probably end up with the same outcome as if you banned gas stations in the town. Now, some members of the committee pointed out to me, and rightly so, that that is by no means a certain way of preventing further gas stations from coming in, because people can come in and make a case for it. They could bring an Article 78 challenging a determination that they haven't made the showing to make it. They could possibly even, if depending on how you wrote the law, seek variances or things like that, and you could wind up with some additional gasoline stations. But the benefit of drafting an overlay district is that you don't need studies to satisfy your SEQR obligations. You need some information. We'd have to talk with the engineer, we'd have to talk with building inspector, and probably get the conservation board involved and someone else to paper your determination. Say, hey, look, we talked to people, we looked into this, we feel that this is an appropriate thing to do, and here's why. But it's not nearly as extreme or expensive as an outright ban on gas stations in the town. Having said all that, the board, or the committee, I should say, is perfectly willing to research both of them and report on both of them, or research one and not the other, however it is you want to do. But what they don't want to do is spend time and effort looking at both and then have the board say, we would never consider banning gasoline stations, or we want to ban gasoline stations. We have no interest in an overlay district. So they're looking for some guidance from the board as to what direction you'd like them to take. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but that's where we're at.
First of all, there'd be an avenue that if we were to ban them, the ones that are existing now have a certain value that they didn't have prior. Because it's a business that nobody else could ever do in the town of Philipstown.
Make some people very happy. Yes.
Right, and I think that's creating a benefit that nobody really would consider. I feel comfortable with a gas station overlay And anything or any applicant that would come in would still have to go before the planning board. They'd still have to go before the conservation board. So there is a criteria, and it's a high bar to get through that process without, some time. There's gonna be some time and effort to get another gas station.
And you'd be
But there would-
eliminating them in a good portion of the town as far as areas where they clearly don't belong. I mean, like I said, the 90 corridors, it's
Right,
crazy to allow
I
gasoline
mean, I
stations.
only see Route 9 as being the corridor for gas stations currently. And they're pretty evenly spaced if you think about
There's
it.
only two,
Well, you have,
in Philipstown.
right, yeah, you have.
Appalachian, and you got the
Up
golf
here,
station,
the
that's
golf
it.
station, right. I know there's some others being
On
considered.
9, I'm saying.
on
Yeah, there are some others being considered on 9, there's some
Right,
other
9-3,
applicants that
there's
are
9.
seeking it.
I mean,
But I
3,
mean, I
sorry.
think that 9 corridor, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to enforce anything, but I'm just saying Route 9 would be the only suitable. I mean, you have one on 9D currently, I don't see an area where an additional one would be appropriate. So I think a gas station overlay would be the route, and it seems like legally, we wouldn't have to hire a consultant to come up with that, and the legal end of it would be more expensive. And there is the layers of the planning board and conservation board that would have to, vet the process or the application anyway, so. I'm comfortable with that route. I'll open it
I
up.
do feel compelled to say one other thing, though, although I appreciate what you're saying. There were some committee members who pointed out that gasoline stations, convenience stores that sell gasoline, are really kind of inconsistent with the town's clean energy policies that you've pursued. And it's very possible, or possible at least, that in the foreseeable future, I mean, not right away, obviously, but you talk a decade or so, they may wind up not being necessary because you have electric filling stations as opposed to.
We're ever going to be free of petroleum products. I mean.
Not in my
that's-
lifetime.
Not in our lifetime. Not in any-
Maybe
Fair enough,
yours,
fair enough,
maybe
but
not
they just felt that that was another thing that
Right.
pushed some of them to, I won't say favor, but be interested in pursuing the possibility of banning gas stations. I just wanted the board to be aware of that.
Well, overlay would
it's
probably
something-
be the easiest way to attack this without costing us a lot of money. My other concern, which I did bring up because I was on the call the other night, we do have an application in front of the planning board right now for a new gas station at the Audemars location.
Right.
So I think I asked Steve that night as well, is that right now he started the process. Now, for example, we get this overlay district done in 4 months from now, whatever, and he's still going through the process. His application gets squashed? I mean,
There's no legal right to a zoning designation unless you acquire vested rights by getting your approvals and actually making improvements to the property, breaking ground. If the zoning changes while your application is pending, you're out of luck. Your
well, that's
application
what I'm saying,
goes
because,
on board.
he just started the planning board process. It's gonna take him, who knows how long to get through it. But the thing is, my thought on this is if I'm that guy going through all this, I'm spending all this money, I'm laying out my money, and all of a sudden, a month before I get my final approval from the planning board, this goes into effect, I'm screwed.
But it's being discussed now publicly, and,
I know, but right now, nothing, we don't, it's
Yeah.
a big difference.
Well, they should probably be told that almost if that
Well, we
was going.
really, I don't know.
If
I
it's an
don't know.
overlay, he'd still have a possibility of pursuing it. It's still gonna be a process between the planning board and
You
conservation.
might want to consider amending your moratorium to include gasoline stations then, if you really want to put everybody on notice and be above board with it.
until the committee comes up with the changes. I mean,
Until
we
the
want the
town
committee to
board decides
pursue
if it's
the
going to make a
overlay,
change to the
right?
zoning or not.
Can I ask
This started out as bulk petroleum storage, and obviously gas stations do have a lot of gas under the ground. I mean, that's a product that they're storing. I don't think it's the same as 500,000 gallons of crude oil, which they were discussing at one point. I mean, there is, 10,000 gallons, maybe 20,000 in your average gas station. Yes, Richard, good.
I just want to bring up a point, and I did cross-reference this at a few places. 10 gallons of gas. Yeah.
Oh, it makes a mess. I'm not saying it's not gonna make a mess. I get that.
No, I just wanted to say what the issue is. It's, I believe, 10 gallons of gas will pollute 12 million gallons of water. Now, I did a little work on this because it seemed a little preposterous to me.
Right.
That's one, it was more than 1 million gallons per gallon.
Per gallon of gas.
Right.
And a lot of it's even spilled. I mean, we've all witnessed gas spills at the gas stations, and they sit
So
there.
here's the issue. I said, well, how could this be? Because, gas floats on the water, wouldn't it sort of evaporate quickly and all that stuff? It's much different when it's in groundwater than it is when it's in surface water. And the other issue is the additives. Apparently, some of the additives in gasoline mix with water really well. They don't just float on the top. So these underground tanks, it's just part of our life. We all use gas and and we just sort of, we're used to it and we think it's a safe thing, but in actuality, it's already done. I believe some of all the Superfund sites that are out, all the brownfield sites that are out there, an overwhelming amount of them are related to gasoline and petroleum,
There was an initiative, and if you've watched gas stations in the community recently where they all had to replace their tanks. Out came the old tanks and the giant holes, and the stations were closed for months. So I believe that, I'm not saying that nothing can happen, but I think the safety factor has improved recently for that. There's still a risk, there's no doubt.
And a lot of the problem is in the connections. The connections go.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be
I appreciate
penny, I'm not, the sky is falling.
Right.
I'm just saying that if you don't need them, you don't want them. That's all I'm saying. You don't want to take unnecessary risk for no good reason. Now, we need gas stations, but we don't necessarily need any more of them in this town.
It's like pizza places in Cold Spring. We don't need any more pizza places.
They're evenly spaced out, John.
We got a pizza joint every block, really.
But the committee made a lot of progress on the petroleum storage, and I think this was organic, this discussion. Why not?
It's growing a little
To
bit.
bring the board up to speed, I didn't plan on talking about it, but, and I won't take up a lot of time. The board has looked extensively into the large petroleum tank storage issue. And I believe they have enough research and paperwork in place now that the board would be, without paying for another survey or study, be in a position to ban large petroleum storage tanks in the town. But you want to, I would think you would want to, do all of the petroleum regulations in a single law. You really, it'd be messy if you did the tanks in one law and the gasoline stations in another law, and we're talking about regulations for the kind of hybrid, like the Krasnicki situation, but heating oil storage. So we're not ready to present a proposed draft law to you yet, but I would think 60, 90 days tops, we should be in a position to do something along those lines.
Again, I would certainly lean towards guiding them, or at least encouraging them to do an overlay and come up with a plan for an overlay. I'm just concerned about a ban and how that would be, implemented and enforced. I bet you there's some gas tanks still in the ground that somebody could argue and say, I do have a gas station and there's tanks right here, and now that it's more valuable, I want to open this. And I specifically know of one, but I won't mention any names. But I know the tanks are still in the ground. But I think that may be a little extreme, but I think it's worth limiting it. And again, if there's a spatial requirement, then we may meet that requirement and not see any additional gas stations based on the way they are situated throughout the town. So
Particularly if they're on 9. I mean, what a nightmare it is pulling on and pulling off, and if they were too close together, you're just asking for traffic slowing down and pulling in and pulling back out onto it. You have ample grounds to say we want them widely separated.
right.
John, can I just ask, though, under a ban, if a current gas station shut down, then it's gone? And
they
it
would
can't be
never-
built again?
they would never
So
shut
if all 4 shut down, there'd be no gas stations
No
in town?
gas in the town. But I
Okay,
mean, the value
so,
of
yeah.
that permit is now
Yeah, it's,
So if you do an overlay, let's say you do an overlay.
it's more valuable.
And it's only along Route 9, it's not, is it banned in the non-overlay places, essentially?
It would be legal non-conforming uses in the areas that is not allowed in.
So it's not allowed?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, that's what I envision. I mean, if the board wants to do it differently, you can, but.
So if you spaced it out, because I don't understand this stuff really, to be honest, if you spaced it out along Route 9 enough,
They have to be 4 miles apart.
then it could be like, you can basically only build one, and it's just like wiggle room in case all the others shut down?
Or if one shuts down, say the one at 9 and Fishkill Road
Yeah.
shuts down, a new one could be built
Got ya.
with that range,
Got
but
ya.
we'd still have another gas station.
Got ya, okay.
That, I mean, that's just,
Ensuring, yeah, we have
Yeah.
a supply, which is,
we use gas.
We use
gas.
We all still use gas. So,
All right, so are we gonna go forward with the overlay?
well, we're not looking for a vote. I mean, this is not a vote. They're
looking for
direction. Tell the
looking for an
committee
opinion.
that,
That's my opinion. I will leave.
That's certainly the consensus, isn't it?
yes, I
It
agree.
feels like it, yeah.
All right, so, okay. Now what about just, like I said, I'm not trying, the person that's in front of the planning board today for a new gas station? What do we don't say nothing to him?
Don't you have to say something?
No, I mean, listen, if you're an applicant before this town and you're investing that much money before any town, if you're investing that much money, I would certainly pay attention to what's going on in that township. I mean, and that's a big investment, what he's got going on. It's not, we went through this with another issue. How come you didn't call me? It's not up to us to call you about stuff. The information is here. We're on TV, our minutes are available. And if I were investing money in a situation like that, I'd certainly stay abreast of what's going on within the township. So that's my feeling. Stephen, how do you feel? Is it our
There's
responsibility?
no legal obligation to advise people about possible pending zoning changes. As you rightly say, if you're a developer, you really just have to keep your ear to the ground and pay attention. If you get a draft of it, or you might want to post something, just a little blurb on the website. I don't know. But I mean, I'm not going to call people up and say, hey, you should be aware. I
I'm
mean,
just trying to put myself in that person's shoes, that's all I'm saying.
you want to be fair as far as that goes. But I mean, if you did that for everybody,
Yeah, it could be
People
a
are gonna-
precedent that we don't want to set. We're here, we're certainly public, everything we do is in public, so if I was investing that money, I would certainly stay in touch with what's going on within the township, so.
And the minutes are available on the website.
All right, so we're going to put that to bed for the day.
And it's great TV viewing.
It's great
right?
TV viewing,
It's like the Super
exciting.
Bowl, it's like,
Exciting.
Similar ratings.
yeah, no commercial.
Yeah, right.
No commercials.
Especially
no
at,
one wants to
especially at
advertise, so it's
9:30, we're really hot.
Seriously.
It is hot in there too.
Next on the agenda is to schedule any workshops or meetings. You have the one you scheduled for next week on the 12th at 7:30. And then you have a workshop scheduled for February 19th at 7:30, and then our next monthly meeting is March 6th.
So next Wednesday is the
We're gonna try to get the solar people, right?
solar thing
Right.
done, which is going to be the 12th.
Right, but if we did, can we do Zoom from here?
No, you guys,
We're doing Zoom. and
you
then we're
guys are going to
come back
Zoom
and
with the
discuss-
solar
Oh,
providers.
okay, gotcha,
and we're
we're
gonna-
not,
With them
okay,
before.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha.
And then you're going to come in and
And
give us your
our
advice.
feedback.
Yep.
Yes, gotcha.
So we'll
Okay.
make that over with.
Okay.
Next, we have the Code Enforcement Monthly Report, and this is for January. Total fees collected, $19,695. There were 27 total permits issued, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 24 all other permits, 24 certificates of occupancy, 2 operating permits were issued, 3 inspections of public assembly, 2 inspections of commercial occupancies, and projects of significance. The site work is well underway for Shakespeare Festival at the Garrison Golf on Route 9.
All right, thank you to Greg Warner. I do have a few items that I just wanted to discuss today. Deputy Supervisor Flaherty and I met with the supervisor and the deputy supervisor of Putnam Valley. We interviewed 2 candidates for the joint code enforcement position. They're both wonderful. One of them is fully licensed and qualified and could start with 2 weeks' notice. The other gentleman is still working on his second certification. He currently is qualified to do fire inspections, but at the end of May, I'm sorry, at the beginning of May, he will be fully qualified to be an assistant building inspector. So we think they were both, Bobby and I thought they were, and so did the supervisor from Putt Valley. They still will be having a conversation with the two current building inspectors, Greg Warner and Rich, I can never pronounce his last name, the gentleman from Putnam Valley. So that's still to happen, and then they're gonna make recommendations to us. But I'm thrilled that this is gonna work. Both of us have been trying to hire a part-time person, didn't work. Combining the position is now creating a full-time position, and we're envisioning it being 2 days in Philipstown, 3 days in Putt Valley, the following week, the opposite. So we'll share, if there's an event where one of the guys is sick, that person will cover that town. Also work out well for vacations. It also, when they get called out after hours, it will increase the pool size of availability. So I think it's a wonderful program that we're gonna sign up with Putnam Valley. There's still some more contractual stuff that we'll have to go through, but I'm hoping this will be in place within a month or so.
Well, one good thing about it too, they were both open to it, because you just don't find many people that would do 3 days, 2 days type of a thing. So they were both wide open to it, which was a good thing, which was
They're both
great. And they both, yes.
relatively local guys.
Right.
One guy lives in
Kent.
Putt Valley, the other one lives in Kent, is fully familiar with the community. You know, I did explain that we're providing inspection services for the two villages. They were both okay with that. They said they will get caught up to speed, and they'll have the opportunity to learn from these two veteran code enforcement agents. So I'm looking forward to that happening in the near future. I did email you guys about the DGIS review. We're well into it. I've gone through the DGIS, as much of it that I feel is appropriate. DGIS for Fjord South. I didn't get into Fjord North, and maybe I could have if I had some more time, but I didn't. I met with Steve Gaba and Steve Marino from our consulting firm. They have the three of us sat together, came up with our points and questions. Steve has weighed into it as well, and now we're waiting for Marino's report. When I spoke to him yesterday, he did meet with Deputy Supervisor Flaherty, the Conservation Board, and Max yesterday. So once the proposal is, or the question, the presentation is complete, he will get it to us. We'll all have an opportunity to review it. And then on February 19th, I'm hoping to get a resolution supporting it and forwarding it off to the Nancy Stoner for input into the DGIS review. Steve, anything that you'd like to add on that?
I'd just add quickly that the proposal to put piers, pylons into the river and make the walkway by Cold Spring is an item that I think that should be focused on by the board. You'll see when you get the draft letter. And of course, the impact of, starting at dockside as opposed to starting further up. There are a couple of alternative paths which are being considered for the DGEIS. So hopefully you focus on those issues in the letter, and like I say, you'll get the draft before the meeting, and we'll see what response you get as far as the FEIS when it gets drafted. But those are kind of the 2 points I think you're going to want to focus on.
And, I like to look at things in a very practical way, and if you consider, hundreds of thousands of additional people coming to the community, it's certainly going to have an impact on the character and the environment. There's just no way to say it's not. I mean, if there are more people coming, there's going to be more traffic. They're coming here by car or by diesel engine or by boat. So there's definitely an impact on the environment. So I can't see the statement saying that there's no impact on the environment or on the character of the community. When you're basically doubling the population of the community on a daily basis, which potential is there based on the low-end figures, it's there. So I don't want to get into it tonight, but we certainly can discuss it on February 18th or February 19th, I'm sorry. Once we have the proposal from Steve Marino, we'll have an opportunity. That night is dedicated to that, and we can certainly dig deep into it and see where we're sitting. So, and we'll go from there. But that's what I have for that. And that is about it. Anybody else?
I just have a comment to say. As a community leader, as a member of this town board, I really enjoy serving with the town board and being a public servant, both in this position, which is part-time for all of us, not highly paid, especially the supervisor and deputy supervisor who spend hours, and you know the pay is not much. And I have a day job as a public servant, and I want to encourage young people in the community and everyone in our town to realize that community service and public service is still a noble undertaking. It's still a noble profession to go into. It doesn't pay a fortune. But there's been a lot of noise across the country recently, and I want to ask anyone who is interested, if they have concerns or fears about their job or about any of their benefits. I have information and contacts. Your members of Congress, your United States senators, all of your state representatives, all of us have resources and information to allay any fears that you might have. We can't, you know, we're not federal representatives, we're not federal agencies, but we certainly interact with them on your behalf.
And we have access to them.
And we have access to them.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
please, you can always send me an email, jfarrell@philipstown.com, or certainly, I'm sure, get in touch with any of your town officials,
All of us.
or all of us.
It's
Thank
a
you.
strange time.
It's a very strange time we're living in, but know that we're here for you.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you, Judy. Great point. Anybody else? What happened? Oh, the pinner. Okay.
Coming for us.
Anything from the audience?
No?
Nothing?
Like, no,
Thank you for everything.
it's 10 o'clock. It's early.
You know, I can't even get French fries now. That's how late it is. We do have three vacancies. We have one on the Conservation Board and two on the Rec Commission. As per Claudio earlier, we did get some resumes for the Rec Commission, and I believe they'll be interviewing very soon. So these are good spots. It's a part of the town. If you want to serve, as Judy just mentioned, this is certainly a way to start, by all means. So with that, I'll say approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you all. That was a marathon.